Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 65 on this fine night. We are toasting. Today is David's mom's birthday, so we are celebrating her and toasting
Right.
to something that she enjoyed.
Yeah, my sainted Irish mother would have been 97 today, so we had to break out the family favorite, Jameson's.
I
We
know, I was
always-
thinking like I haven't had Jameson's in probably like a long time.
We
20 years.
there was always a bottle around my mother's house or my siblings.
Just in case.
My siblings' houses, just in case somebody stopped by.
Right.
And it was always,
And you had to put cheese and crackers out.
well, yes, which we didn't do, but that my mother and my siblings and I have always drunk Jameson in honor of the Irish side of the family.
So cheers
So,
to Margaret.
Cheers to Margaret Mary Durkin von Evers, my sainted Irish mother from Waukegan, Illinois, birthplace of Jack Benny. I don't know what that has to do with anything.
I still have never been to Waukegan. I need to go there.
I used to go to court there all the time because it's the county seat of Lake County, Illinois.
There you go.
And my mother's cousin, who would also be my cousin, because when you're Irish, you know these things. My mother's first cousin was, of course, my first cousin once removed.
Yes.
My mother's cousin used to be the mayor of Waukegan.
That's fancy.
Yeah. Yeah. And although it's funny, I remember I emailed him about something one time because we had some issue going on up there. And he was essentially, in that day and age, this would have been in the mid-90s maybe, he was basically the only Democrat elected official in Lake County, or at least in that particular area. So he said to me, everyone else was essentially Republican. He said, well, I'd like to help you out, but I don't have much sway. I mean, we weren't looking to pull favors. We were just trying to get some information, but it was hilarious. He was like, I got no clout.
Yeah, no clout.
People vote for me, but I got no clout. So
I have no friends.
No, he had friends. He was very well liked, as a matter of fact. But I thought that was pretty funny. I think he was just being humble, but it was pretty humorous. So that she'd have been 97 today. We've talked about her before.
Yeah, she was an amazing lady, and we were remembering our niece Rachel on David's side of the family. Was born on today as well, so she is. We were trying to figure out how old she is. I think 20 or 21, but
sounds right. I've got, first of all, I got a lot of nieces and nephews.
We have so many.
On my side of the family in particular, there's just, I don't know, 2-3 dozen.
Yeah.
It's not that many. Well, it's more than 2.
It's a lot.
But I don't think it's 3. But anyway, so it's hard to remember all their names and ages. And I was saying earlier that, coming from a big family and being one of the younger kids in the family, that generation started when I was like in high school, right? So the first few nieces and nephews that I had, I was like, I knew every little detail. I knew all the vital stats. I obviously knew their birthdays, I knew their ages, I knew the order that they came in. And then as I get older, it's like harder and harder to remember. It's no fault of theirs. It's not that they're not memorable. It's that I'm getting senile as I get older, and I'm like, I know their names. I'm always good with the names. I know all the names.
But the actual birth months and dates eludes us at times.
Right, and well, right, except in the case of, for example, Rachel born on my mother's birthday, that I remember. Darby, our nephew, born on my birthday, obviously I remember.
And then
that was particularly memorable because he was born on my birthday.
Funny birthday story is when we had gotten engaged and we were thinking of when to have our wedding. We decided in March just because it was like not an unpopular time to get married, but it was like just not as like crazy, or you had to plan like 2 years in advance or whatever if you wanted like a June or July wedding. So we came up with March 11th for our wedding, which turned out to be our niece Andrea's birthday.
Oh, that's
which
right.
We did not know.
We
knew, but we didn't remember.
But here's the thing, I did know that. I mean, that was because she was one of the earlier ones. I did know that, and somehow, and her mom, my sister's birthday was just a couple days before that, so I knew. It was just a brain cramp. I knew that. I mean, I should have known.
But then fast forward when she got married and she sent out to save the date for the birthday. Right. Her wedding was on July 14th, which was our son's birthday.
That's right.
So, and she was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And we're like, well, I think she was 11 on our birthday, but I was like, you had to spend your birthday at our wedding, so we will spend our son's birthday at your wedding. So that was a fun time.
Also, Woody Guthrie's birthday.
That's true.
Yeah.
July 14th.
Right. So it is funny because, obviously yesterday was the inauguration. We were talking about that on Tuesday, reminiscing about inaugurations and so forth. And I was thinking, we didn't have the time really to watch any of the festivities.
I know. I ended up watching bits and pieces on YouTube afterwards.
But I was thinking about how, my parents were all into all that stuff. They were politically active, and they watched all the inaugurations and all that kind of stuff. And I remember very specifically in 1993, I actually watched, that was Bill Clinton's first inaugural, and I happened to be off work that day. And, it's the 20th of January, so it's, that's set in the Constitution, so it's right before my mom's birthday. So I was, I had a double purpose for stopping by. It was her birthday, exactly. And I knew they were going to be watching the inauguration. And it was this strangely emotional kind of thing. Like, I didn't expect it at all. I was just like, I knew they were going to be around. But it was a weird time in our family because not long before that, in April of 1991, one of my brothers had passed away, right? And that was the first, immediate family member who died. And it was obviously, pretty devastating for my parents. And he died under bad circumstances. And it was just a rough time. It went through this rough patch. But my parents... and we're not getting into partisan politics or anything like that, but they liked Bill Clinton. They were Democrats. They were kind of old-timey Democrats because they had grown up in the Depression and World War II, and they were, FDR was a big hero to them. And so they were, kind of relieved that after 8 years of Ronald Reagan and 4 years of the first George Bush, there was a Democratic president, And there was a time in the 80s where that didn't seem very likely to occur ever again. So it was kind of for them, it was kind of like this uplifting thing. They'd gone through this kind of dark period, and now, by the way, another funny Jameson story, just as an aside.
Yeah,
I watched the 96 election with some friends and a priest who was the pastor of the local Catholic church, and he enjoyed the Jamesons we had that night, as I recall. But so there's a lot of political connections to the Jamesons,
there you go.
Apparently. Anyway, so in the inauguration ceremony or whatever, Maya Angelou, the famous poet, had written a speech for that event, and so this was kind of a dark time, and it was like coming out of this sort of dark period. And my parents were feeling some sense of relief, and she wrote this poem. Maya Angelou wrote this poem called, I always forget the name of it. I gotta scroll back up now. Thank God for the internet. It's called On the Pulse of the Morning. So she delivered it January 20th, 1993. And there's this part towards the end. It's kind of like goes through sort of history, or, it's talking about some of the struggles that our country has gone through. And towards the end of the poem, there's this line that really impacted my mother, or group of lines or whatever. I'm not a poet, so I don't know what you call it. But it goes, history, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. And then the next short stanza reads, lift up your eyes upon this day breaking for you, give birth again to the dream. And my mom was really affected by it. I mean, not that she broke down, but she was glued to the television watching Maya Angelou recite this poem. And one of my brothers, if I'm not mistaken, it was one of my brothers who actually was at the inauguration, but in any event, had those words, done in calligraphy on a wall hanging, framed and under glass and all that. And my mom had that for the rest of her life, you know. And it was just, it was this significant thing because it wasn't about the politics of the moment. It was more about, sort of getting over this really tragic thing that happened. And then, unfortunately, my dad passed away in 1994. So that the event of the Clinton inaugural and Maya Angelou giving that speech, reciting that poem, were bookended by these really bad things. They were especially bad for my mom,
Right.
But she always had that quote. It was always hanging on the wall, and it gave her some strength in difficult times. In fact, we put that quote on the prayer cards that we gave out at her funeral, her wake at her funeral. So, I mean, it meant a lot to her. So it's a funny kind of thing, because I have this really sort of emotional association with inaugurations because of that event. And I'm not sure I would have necessarily wanted to sit through a lot of it yesterday. I mean, I wasn't thinking about it until during the day yesterday. I'm thinking, I know it's a big historical event, but I'm not sure I want to sit through it, because it really does have this other effect that has nothing to do with politics.
Definitely. I did enjoy watching the parts that I did watch. Obviously, the fashion of the people. Michelle Obama just looked amazing. Our daughter has done spoken word for many years, and the poet laureate that they had yesterday, outstanding. I've watched it 5 times.
Yeah.
It's so good. And a fun fact, when Maya Angelou did that one, Oprah Winfrey gave her earrings and a ring, and the girl that recited yesterday, Oprah did the same thing. So her earrings and her ring were from Oprah, my best friend.
There you go. And I saw an interesting thing too. I saw a lot of comments, because they didn't do these big, balls and indoor things because of COVID. So they did, these outdoor performances that were televised. And I saw an interesting thing. A lot of people that I saw on other social media platforms saying that's the way to do it. That's the way they should always do it, pandemic or not.
Right.
Make it more of, instead of the president and the president's spouse and the vice president and everything, celebrating the fact that they were sworn in or whatever. Make it this public celebration. And it doesn't have to be a partisan thing. It can be a celebration of the fact that there's a peaceful transition of power.
Right.
Because whether you vote for the person or not, it's still kind of our day, in a sense. I mean, it's the election that delivered that person into office, and we're the people who voted.
Right.
Right. Although I know all about the Electoral College. You don't have to tell me I'm wrong about that. But I mean, so you could do it in kind of a nonpartisan way. Just have a big celebration of the fact that, there was an election and there was a peaceful transfer of power. Or, if a person gets reelected, that's, that all that is done, peacefully and everything like that.
And
I think it's an interesting idea.
And we didn't know that there was still continuing stuff in the evening, so we missed Bruce Springsteen.
We missed Bruce.
Didn't know that was happening, so I did watch that later, and it was just kind of I thought, I'll watch it in the background while I'm at work, but then it's I was busy at work, had meetings and stuff, and I didn't get to watch any of it.
And Bruce sang Land of Hope and Dreams, which, is, I don't know when he recorded it originally. There's a live version from his 2000 tour, where the E Street Band got back together. And I happened to see them on that tour in St. Louis, as a matter of fact. And I just mentioned that the other night because we were talking about hockey. And I saw them at the arena where the St. Louis Blues played. But anyway, but he played that song, and I was not familiar with it. And ever since I heard him play that song live, it's always been this song that really it's about getting through difficult times and all that sort of thing. And I remember, when my brother Tom passed away, I'm gonna be as morose as possible tonight. But when my brother Tom passed away, I remember that was the first thing I did was I looked up that song, a live version of it. It wasn't from the concert that I saw. He performed it in Barcelona or something like that. And I remember just listening to it. And it's a long song when he does it with the full band. It's 6-7 minutes long. And that song got me through a lot of difficult situations. So, in fact, I'll continue to be as morose as possible. When I saw Bruce in 2000, it was April 8th, 2000 in St. Louis.
Okay.
Why do I remember that?
I don't know.
Because my brother John, who I mentioned earlier, passed away on April 9th of 1991.
Oh, right.
And I was with my sister and my brother-in-law and one of my brother-in-law's sisters. And we were walking back from the arena to the hotel, and I look at my watch, and it's after midnight, right? So now it's April 9th, and I'm like, you know what? This was exactly it was like going to church, it was like exactly the right thing for that anniversary.
Definitely.
It was this just, this unbelievably uplifting thing. And in the midst of all that, he played that song. And so I've always associated that with, dealing with hard times.
There you go.
So.
In the 3.5-hour concert, or however long this concerts are always.
Like it was long. At least 3.5. Yeah. Yeah. I saw recently somewhere that the record for a Springsteen concert was a little over 4 hours.
We just did see that recently. Did you want to share a coffee?
Oh yeah. So the other thing that I forgot about it. It's sitting over here. So this was a Christmas present for the kids, but it just arrived today. But we have to share this because it's my favorite local coffee company, Dark Matter Coffee. The kids ordered like a subscription, so we'll get it over the course of the next few months. And they sent 2 because there's a little mix-up about the order. And they were kind enough, it wasn't their fault, but they were kind enough because of the mix-up to send a second bag. I think these are whole bean. Sometimes.
I can smell that. It
smells really good.
Really good.
It smells really good. I think these are whole bean. We do have a coffee grinder.
Oh, it's not open.
And the way that I came across this company, I feel like I'm doing all the talking.
Oh no, you're fine.
The way that I came across this company was that we were watching the news early on in the pandemic when things were really bad and everything was really shut down, probably in like late April so, maybe early May. There's a story on one of the local news broadcasts about how the pandemic was impacting them, and they talked about this company, Dark Matter Coffee, and they were committed to paying their employees and paying the benefits and keeping everybody on, and doing everything they could not to, even though obviously their business was affected like everybody's business. They were going to do their best to keep doing it. And I'm like, well, heck, if you're going to, do that for your employees, then we're going to help you out. So we ordered
a 6-month.
A 6-month subscription.
Yeah, but the fun part is you never know what the packaging is going to look like. So it's all very eclectic and everything, and the names of it.
This is Tupacas.
Oh, Tupacas.
Like Tupac.
Yeah. So yeah, and we have had probably 5 or 6 different varieties. I think they've repeated once. But all outstanding.
And they really go out of their way too to like source the beans from like good producers. So for example, this I can't remember. It just says origin. Now I'm going to have to turn it around.
Yeah.
San Jeronimo Miramar is a unique and hyper-progressive farm with a focus on sustainable farming, conservation, and biodiversity. So they try to find producers who are really benefiting the local economy and the local environment.
Right, not from big.
So it's not
Yeah, they're just very small, family owned.
And when you're doing business in other parts of the world, you have to be very careful about whether or not you're unwittingly exploiting people.
Definitely.
And they're trying very hard to avoid that and actually promote. People who provide a real benefit.
And they do have a coffee shop on Western in Chicago, but obviously I think you could just grab and go now. I don't think you can sit in there. But at least this kind of thing can keep like small businesses afloat, so that's good. Yeah,
and it's really good coffee. I mean, most of the times when we had our 6-month subscription before, I think all but one came ground. Mm-hmm. But by the way, it says right on here the date that they roasted it. Roast date 1/11, so it's fresh. It's,
there you go.
Just had.
It smells so good.
But,
the Jameson, the coffee.
Yeah, and it's another. I mean, it's very fitting because my mother was a crazy coffee drinker.
She was.
She would drink, and occasionally she might combine the two. But for the most part, she just drank coffee.
Yes.
Drank it in the old-fashioned way with cream and sugar, but she drank coffee all the time.
But the fun thing is she had a china cabinet in her house that had little tiny
Kind of like
coffee
espresso
cups, yeah.
sized cups.
And the kids are all had their favorite ones that they did, and so as soon as they went over there, they went into the cabinet and got their little baby thing. And sometimes she would put coffee in there for them when they were growing up, and they thought they were like all that in a bag of chips.
I was never told that.
But they actually got those, and they still have them. So it's a nice memory of Margaret. Just a fantastic lady on her birthday.
Yeah, she was all right.
So that's our show for tonight. We're going to enjoy our cocktail, and it's not really a cocktail because it's just kind of like...
It's spirits,
It's spirits.
as John Temple would say.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers
Cheers,
to you.
Margaret. See you next time.
Good night.